Have you ever thought about putting your career on hold to travel the world? Our next guest did just that. Why did she do it? Where did she go? What did she learn? Let's find out next on Lakeshore Focus. Welcome again to Lakeshore Focus, a weekly show highlighting the key issues, important events, and interesting people in our region. I'm Keith Kirkpatrick. Imagine this, quitting your job, packing your bag, and traveling the world, not just for fun and grins, but to learn and discover. Our next guest did just that. As an environmental, health, and safety professional, she had worked her way up the ranks to become a corporate level manager. She walked away from her job last October, 9 months ago, and embarked on a series of trips spanning 21 countries on 5 continents. Let's meet our world traveler and vagabond, Janice, Landra, Raible. So glad to have you here.
Thank you, Keith. Glad to be here.
Was that a good description? You just walked away from your job?
I think it's quite accurate, yes.
So what did they say when you said, I'm leaving and going to travel the world?
Shock. Everybody was shocked because I kept the decision pretty close to myself because it had to be from me. I didn't want it to be influenced and I didn't want to be talked out of it.
It's hard to believe that anybody could talk you out of anything since I've known you for a while. But so they, how much notice did you even give?
Not much.
Not much, because you didn't want to be talked out of it.
Right.
Okay.
And in the corporate environment I worked in, usually when somebody tenders a resignation, they're let go that day.
Oh, so you were prepared for that.
I was prepared.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's probably 2 questions. I mean, the first one is, why did you do this?
The primary reason is I had really gotten burned out. The environmental health and safety field is challenging. We're constantly trying to work with, but sometimes it appears against, the need for a company to make a profit. And sometimes those battles can really make us weary and we feel that we're not being effective. And I was in a few work environments where it just wasn't possible to make a difference. And I was really getting worn out. I was beginning to question whether this was the right career. And I'd also started to lose my empathy and my sense of humor, which are 2 core aspects of who I am as a person. And I wasn't liking what I saw.
Well, this is really interesting because so many people experience burnout, hit a wall in their career, all those kind of things you described, and they don't act on it. They just keep slugging it out and makes it worse oftentimes. But you said, no, I'm not doing this. I'm going to do something else. I mean, that's pretty shocking. Hardly anybody does that. How did you pull that off?
There were some events that happened in the year leading up that really drove me to it. I lost 3 of my friends, cancer and other illnesses. And I started asking myself, if today was my last day on earth, would I be proud of what I had done so far? Would I be happy with who I was? And the answer was absolutely no. I was not happy at all. And so I knew the only thing worse than leaving this earth would be to just stay here and keep doing the same old thing and not getting anywhere.
So to give people, our viewers, kind of a reference point, you worked for some really big companies, right?
Yeah. Yes.
So here in the region you worked for?
Worked for ArcelorMittal and BP, and prior to that I worked for URS Corporation, which is now AECOM. And they are tremendously large companies, all 3 of them. And then I worked for a very large Midwestern-based company called DLZ.
And most of your work was here in Northwest Indiana, Chicagoland region, so with these really big companies. So you said, I'm done, I'm off and running. So what was guiding you, or what was driving you at that point? I mean, where'd you decide to go first? Put your finger on the map?
I was looking at budget, that was certainly a consideration, and so I purposely timed my travel to be generally shoulder season, so I could get
What's
around.
shoulder season?
Shoulder season is between what's called high season, when all the tourists cram in there. It's the ideal time to go visit, perfect weather and all that. And then low season is usually when you have the worst weather or things are closed. But shoulder season is kind of in between. So like
Where does
going,
that term come from?
I have no idea.
Is it like because you had a backpack on your shoulder or something?
I don't know.
That's what it sounds like, doesn't it?
It does.
It's the kind of the time of season that you throw the backpack on, which a lot of people do. Did
Sure
you
did.
backpack at all? Any of this?
Not in the what people seem to think of as backpacking, like literally hitchhiking around a country. No, I did have a backpack though, because it's a great way to stuff all your stuff in and keep it together.
They got all the right pockets, right?
Got all the right pockets.
So you kind of had this criteria. So where did you end up going first?
I started in Southeast Asia because it had always been on my list, and I figured why not start somewhere that's very different from here. And it was just, it really opened everything up for me, and it got me thinking about exactly what I wanted to. Environmental issues, because where in the world are there a lot of changes happening? And when you talk about climate change and you talk about pollution from both automobiles as well as industry, there's a lot of talk about what's happening in Southeast Asia. And also human rights, again, many, many things.
Well, this is part of why I wanted to have you on the show, because this is not a travel log. We're not doing, where did you go and what sites did you see? You talked about these two issues, and I know there's another one, about you were kind of going through the world to look at environmental issues and human rights issues. You were kind of on a discovery trip, right? I mean, why was that important to you, as opposed to doing the typical touristy things?
This had to do with where I fit into this world. So it was, I guess some people could call it a midlife crisis. Hopefully I'm not already midway there. But I had to answer a few questions about myself. First of all, was I just suffering garden variety burnout and I'm just acting like a spoiled brat and I need to get back to work doing what I was doing? Should I be doing a career as an environmental health and safety professional? And if so, what should that career look like? How can I best help? What can I do? What should I be doing? So where's the need?
So part of this discovery is trying to find where you feel your next step needs to be in the world, right?
Exactly, and the best way to do that is to often look back in history. How did we get where we are? How did we get here?
So what's been one of your greatest takeaways? I'll get to some of the other places you've been, but right off the top of your head, if somebody said, what did you gain from this trip? What's the biggest takeaway?
The biggest takeaway is that international travel is probably the most efficient and effective way to trash a lot of the ignorant things that we're being fed through social media and irresponsible news sources. To be able to get on the ground and see for myself how kind, warm, and often funny people are, whether it's in Indonesia, Hong Kong, Chile, anywhere in the world. We're all really the same.
Well,
and
I
we
know
all
you
really
like
want the
funny
same
for
thing.
sure.
Funny for sure.
So you got a good funny story from any of these places?
Oh my goodness.
Right off, I mean, one of those that made you slap your knee? Funny? Maybe you're laughing at yourself sometime.
I think that's probably just, more of it. Standing in the train station in Yogyakarta and trying to figure out how to convert a ticket to a boarding pass, and there's nothing in English, and there's a man wearing military fatigues with a fully automatic rifle that's not letting anybody on the train without the orange thing, and I got the blue thing. And
He's probably looking at you, right?
And I started crying. And I'm not a crier, but at that point I was just like so frustrated. And then all these people came over to help, and then I ended up with the right color pass and I got on the train and everything was good. But so at every step, people looked out for me, and at that point I really started laughing about it because the world is a kind place, and it is a darn friendly place too.
So I was imagining that while you were maybe between tears here and laughter, what were you thinking? What a dumb American, or what in the world am I doing here, or what have I put myself in? What was going through your brain?
Part of me just wanted to go home. I was so uncomfortable, and the environment was just so different from what I had ever been in. And then I thought, it's not that bad. What could go wrong? I'm completely safe. You know, nothing's really going wrong here in the grand scheme of things. I'm gonna be okay.
And that's one of the
Yeah.
great takeaways, is we are so used to, particularly as Americans, to be in a comfortable situation. And so it's very familiar. And that's what a lot of people who come to this country as immigrants and visitors feel, is that they're in that same spot, just reversed now. It's really uncomfortable. I want to go home. I'd like to hear somebody speak my own language. I'd like to read a sign that I can read, right? So that's what you were feeling at that moment.
Yes, and then the selfishness aspect of it, because I added to that, I extrapolated from it after seeing how graceful our immigrants are in handling that. You don't see them having meltdowns on our streets. You don't see that happening. They are so incredibly mature and just embracing the newness of everything. And I thought, that's where our innovators are going to come from. Those are real adventurers, and those are the people that are going to take our world where it needs to go. And I thought, okay, this is a cool place. This is going to work out. I can learn from these people.
So what was the biggest surprise or discovery you had environmentally? Just because I know the environment is big for you and you're looking at it. So of all the places you went, just wow, you had that moment when you went, wow, I didn't know this.
I didn't realize that Iceland runs almost completely off of renewable energy. I really didn't know that. And
How did they pull that off?
it's geothermal, so it is very specific to the location. You can't just build what they did anywhere in the world. But it was just tremendously fascinating. And then a very close second to that would be northern Chile, where there was just one solar-powered hostel after another. Everything was solar-powered. Again, though, because they have a particular desert climate, skies that are about as clear as anything as you'd see in the world. And they're just so environmentally conscious, because every drop of water has to be conserved. It's so precious to them. And I just really loved that whole way that they really respected the environment.
And they're adapting to their climate. That's
Yes.
what they're doing. They're using that to their advantage. So let's shift to kind of the social justice, the kind of those type of issues. What did you see there? I mean, what kind of like, wow?
The single biggest thing that is most impactful is I really wanted to see how women were treated around the world. And that was probably the part that was most difficult for me to deal with, because I realized how far we have to go. The last country I visited was Iceland. There's an index of gender equality that's published every year. And Iceland has continually led the world in gender equality, yet even there, a woman is only worth not even 90% of a man as far as her civil rights and all that go. The United States is 40th in the world. We're only 72% of the way there. And
we got a ways to go
we have a
ourselves.
long ways to go. So one aspect of it is that I came away very upset and depressed and thinking, oh my gosh, this is just so sad. And then I thought, wait a minute, there's an opportunity, because as a health and safety professional, I know how to apply those principles to a company, but health and safety is a lot bigger, looking at public safety, civil rights, that aspect of equality.
One of the things the press often comes up with, the media comes up with, is how difficult or really adverse situations are for women in other parts of the world. Were you able to see some of that where you're like, oh my gosh, even though it's not good in the U.S., and Iceland and we're not where we need to be. Wow, this is way below standard.
Yes, absolutely. I did see that, especially in the developing countries. So it made me tremendously grateful for coming back to the United States because
What
I
country
knew
stood out for you in that? Just where were you when you're like, wow, this is pretty depressing?
Indonesia was certainly a country. It is. I was on Java, the island of Java, and that's predominantly it subscribes to Islam. Not Islamist, though. I do want to make that point. I would definitely call it a moderate version of Islam, but modest dress is required. Women and men that are not related tend to not interact in a way that was good. It was the one place in the world I went and did not get catcalled. So
what's that like? So
wonderful.
So this is catcall is just men hooting at you. I mean, men. So where did this happen? Mostly.
That's everywhere, and it's just a sign of dominance, where men are signaling to women that they can pretty much do and say what they want, and nobody's going to stop them.
So how did you handle that as an American? I know you've got a pretty strong attitude about things. So how'd you deal with it?
I have a strong attitude, but the reality is if I get assaulted by a man, again, when you look at the gender equality index, if it's my word against a man in the court system, what's more likely to happen? He's going to walk, and my name is going to get dragged through the mud.
There was other issues you were trying to look at. I think about slavery and just some of the kind of countries in turmoil. What else did you kind of see?
I really took it to heart after the last presidential election about white women letting black women down. And so I really wanted to educate myself more on civil rights and why are things the way they are with people of color. And a good place to look is where colonies were created and the countries that created those colonies, the countries that ran the African slave trade for hundreds of years, and where the wealth went. So many issues there, and I don't consider myself an expert by any stretch, but it really helped to be able to see, like, Indonesia was a Dutch colony, and then going to the Netherlands and spending an entire day doing a Black history walking tour with an expert from Suriname who helped connect the dots, and then going to London, going to Bordeaux and other major slave ports and seeing again how are things handled and how is that history treated. So that helped a great deal. It helped me understand everything from microaggressions, so I could start to look at my own language, how I speak, to stop insulting people unintentionally, and to even get into my own thoughts and help retrain my brain, because let's face it, we're all racist, and we really have to admit that.
It's an interesting perspective. I remember being in the Netherlands and seeing the wealth that they accumulated during those years that they controlled a good portion of the world. And then you go to these other countries and you see that there's poverty in these countries. Where did you go? Were you spend some time in Africa?
Not yet. That's next on my list.
That's your next list.
But I
okay.
do want to tell you a story about Indonesia. This was one of the more impactful things that was said to me. Because that is a relatively, it's a developing country, and it only became free in 1944 from the Netherlands. It has a ways to go yet. And so I was able to hire a car with an English-speaking driver for a whole day for less than $40 US. And we're talking an educated, professional gentleman who was just a tremendous resource for me day after day when I was there. And we were able to have some really good conversations about our respective cultures and our histories. And he said probably one of the most, pointed things to me that anybody's ever said, and I'm so grateful for it. He said, you know, you people in the United States sit in those gray boxes in your office buildings, and I know you're not making magic there, but yet you get paid so much more than we do. And you've been going around this country and seeing how hard people work here and the innovation that they're doing every day and the little businesses that they're running out on the street. How is it that you can earn so much more money than we can here? What is it that you're really doing that's that much better?
What was your answer?
Nothing. I said, you're absolutely right. And I would love to be part of the process of equalizing these things. I think out of every country in the world, Indonesia is the one that's most on the move. I would love to go back in 10 years and 20 years and see, because that is on the rise. The people there, they're going places. It's very exciting to see.
We're getting toward the end here, so I just don't want to miss maybe one other takeaway you had that just we haven't topically covered. What else did you just remember, like this was important?
I had a kind of a breakdown in Annes, Belgium, and it was at Fort de Lanson. And that fort was destroyed by the Germans in World War I when the Germans invaded Belgium and pretty much overran the country. And this is a very powerful lesson about meritocracy. That fort and other forts around it were designed by somebody who had the title of an engineer, but had no business doing that job. And because it was so poorly designed, a German shell hit that fort and blew the entire thing up in the air. It came down in pieces and landed on the 550-man garrison, killing most of them. And it is just, it broke my heart to see that. And I sat on the ground next to one of the memorials, and I just said, oh, to have the confidence of a mediocre white man, because that's so much of what happens in our society. People get promoted because they were born into something, born into white skin, born into a certain gender, and maybe they have a family name, and they get put in these positions and they do things, and because of that, people die. The impact, it just cannot be underestimated.
So we're down to the last few seconds, and just tell me kind of how much longer are you going to do this? Where's your next trip?
I was supposed to go to Mongolia. I was on a wait list for a 2-week trip that was to start in next week, and I didn't quite make it to the top of the list. So I'm going to be doing some training instead. I have some freelance work lined up, and I'm open to ideas from people and anything I can help with.
Well, we may have to have you back for part 2 on this after the next round of trip. So I really appreciate you coming on the show and sharing your thoughts. It's been great.
Thank you.
And it's good to see you.
You too, Keith.
All right. I don't know about you, but I consider myself a global citizen. Yes, I am an American and take my citizenship in this country very seriously. I am a loyal, responsible, proud citizen of the good old USA. Yet I live on this planet and share its resources with 6 billion other human beings who I believe are as important as I am and have as much value as I do. I am no scientist, but I am pretty sure that everyone on the face of the earth share the same sun, breathe the same air, and are impacted by weather. In fact, the more we study geophysical occurrences, the more we understand how interconnected we are. I doubt you know the geographic origin of the gas you put in your car, the steel in your refrigerator, the polymers in your plastic bags, or the fiber in your carpet. You're probably not sure where the tomato, beef, orange, and beans you ate yesterday came from. How about the television you are watching right now, the shirt you are wearing, the chair you were sitting in, or the beverage on the table next to you? Where were they made, and where did the materials come from? I know some of you looked at the label when you bought it, but do you remember? I'm absolutely sure that many of these items came from another part of the globe. We rely on the raw materials used, the hands that made it, and the transportation that brought it to us. Let's talk about connections. When I am making public presentations, I will often ask an audience, who has friends or family living in another part of the world? Almost everyone raises a hand. Next question. How many of you have traveled outside of the U.S.? Again, depending on the audience, many raise their hands. When I ask who in this room communicates via email, text, social media, phone, or online with someone in another country on a fairly regular basis, almost every hand goes up. If the crowd is young, it's nearly 100%. We are connected to people who are important to us in this world. Let me share the lyrics of one of my favorite hymns. This is my song, O God of all the nations, a song of peace for lands afar and mine. This is my home, the country where my heart is. Here are my hopes, my dreams, my holy shrine. But other hearts and other lands are beating with hopes and dreams as true and high as mine. My faith instructs me that all people are important and I should put others first, not just my family or the people in my hometown or the people of this country, but everyone. Global citizenship means that I have a responsibility and a duty to others on this planet. I take that role very seriously. I am a global citizen. I hope you are too. We appreciate every time you watch us on Lakeshore PBS. Your comments about any of our interviews on Lakeshore Focus are helpful. You can send your thoughts through the website or via email, both listed on your screen right now. If you can't find a previously aired show on our website for some reason, go to YouTube, type Lakeshore Focus plus a guest name or topic, and there it is. Be sure and join us again next week for another Lakeshore Focus. Until then, I'm Keith Kirkpatrick saying, make a positive difference in our world today.